In this birth story, I'm going to share with you the journey of one woman, Ellen, who overcame great odds to have a birth that she wanted to have. It's actually two birth stories in one. I was there with her for her first birth, and I was a young doula at the time, and it was a very long, very difficult labor. In the weeks following, it was discovered she had some damage to her pelvic floor, and it took a long time to heal. It was very painful. And she grieved. She grieved the birth that she wanted to have, didn't really understand for a long time why her body didn't work or what was wrong, why she couldn't do it. I remember her telling me in the hospital that she felt like she was a failure. And the whole time we're encouraging her, we're coaching her, saying, "You're doing a great job, keep going, you're pushing so hard, you're doing so good." And she'd say, "I don't feel like I'm doing anything." And she wouldn't believe it. We kept encouraging her and coaching her and saying, "You're doing it, you're doing awesome, you're so strong." But it didn't get in. And of course, it's probably hard to when you're still pushing and baby's not coming out. And of course, as women, we blame ourselves, right? We beat ourselves up. And so she's processing this, and she's working through these emotions, as many of you probably have been in the same shoes as hers. And it wasn't until the obstetrician came in, the OB, that helped with the delivery and that helped stitch her up. She comes in to check on her the next day, and the OB says, "I have never seen a woman push as hard as you did in my whole career." And it broke the shame off of her. And for the first time, she believed, wow, I really did work hard, and it wasn't my fault the baby didn't come out. It was like hearing the professionals say that and give strength to her and commend her for the work she did. It was like it just kind of broke this lie off that she was the failure, that it was her fault and she couldn't push and her body failed her. And so she just began to weep, and it was a healing moment. But that birth was still a traumatic birth for her, and it took a long time for her to heal from it. Now, I share that because she got pregnant years later. It was about, I think, 2 or 3 years later. I don't have the exact dates. But she, because of the damage that was caused by her pelvic floor with the first birth, the obstetricians and the doctors were recommending that she have a cesarean section. And they said that that's what they advised. But she really wanted to have a vaginal birth. She got 4 second opinions that all strongly recommended C-section, including some of them gave her a gruesome worst-case scenario of what might happen to further damage her perineum and her vaginal floor if she attempted a vaginal delivery. And so many women in this situation would say, okay, fine, I admit defeat, I'll get the cesarean section. But she says, I kept listening to the wisdom of my birthing body, and I could feel my ability to give birth vaginally. She's very in tune with her body. When I informed the midwives, who chose to give birth with midwives in the hospital, they said that they would support whatever decision I made. The OBGYN suggested if I wanted to give birth vaginally, that they would induce me early at 39 weeks to keep the baby small, to keep less pressure on the perineum. Now, we know that in an induction or in forced pushing, it's probably going to cause the perineum to tighten even more and be more likely to tear. Getting an induction, even though it might seem logical that the baby's a little bit smaller, she knew it would be more likely to have interventions with an induction than if her body went into labor naturally. So she respectfully declined all their offers, and she said that she was sitting with the midwife, and the head of the OB department was sitting there telling her all the risks, that C-section is strongly recommended, or we can, here's another option we can do, we can induce you. They laid it all out on the table, and Ellen said, I don't think that's what I want. I want to have a vaginal delivery. I trust my body. And they were nervous. They didn't know, is she going to allow them to have this kind of birth? Are they going to support it? And the OB said, well, it sounds like you made up your mind. Let's celebrate. And the midwife and Ellen looked at each other and said, okay. So they celebrated. We're going to have a vaginal delivery. She said she ended up going until 42 weeks again. Like I said, some women just go late. That's just the pattern of their body, and they need more gestational time. The way she prepared for this labor was beautiful. She simplified her life. She began focusing on preparing. She did lots of spinning babies exercises to give her the optimal fetal position. So again, check out spinningbabies.com. There's great ways to prepare your body to balance your pelvis so that baby gets in the best position for labor. She did Mayan abdominal massage and myofascial release of the pelvic floor. She said the myofascial release of the pelvic floor was the most impactful. She could feel a huge difference, and that she believed that really helped her achieve the birth that she wanted. She said, I could viscerally feel the baby being born, and I trusted it. She said, occasionally I would doubt it, and I would go into the what ifs, but I would keep meditating and praying and coming back to my body, to listening to what my body and my heart were saying. I love how she trusted her body, despite what all the experts were telling her unanimously of all the damage she could be doing. She put above all the expert opinions, this is what my body is saying. I can feel my baby being born. I trust my body. It's saying yes, it has peace. It's such a beautiful leap of faith sometimes to know that you're so connected and know what's best for your body in your gut, and to work and put forth conscious effort, because she could have said, no, I trust my body, but taken on lots of fear and gone into that delivery room with fear all over her because of the reports of the doctors. But she brushed all of that off. She pushed aside the doubt and the what ifs and went back into meditation and prayer to stay in a positive heart attitude. So 42 weeks into her pregnancy, her labor began at home. She was alone with her toddler, and then her dad came and drove her to the hospital. She said, in triage, I was extremely annoyed. The nurse was trying to put a line in while my contractions were rolling one after the other. It was intense. She's going through transition here. And the midwife checked her, and she was 9 centimeters. The RN then wheeled her over to the delivery room because she couldn't walk, so she's on the gurney. She said, I didn't even make it to the delivery bed. The nurse ran out to call the midwife back. She said, I felt a lot of pressure. My water broke, and I couldn't help but push. You know, it's that uncontrollable urge to push. She was on her hands and knees on the gurney. The midwife had to switch her to lay on her side to slow down labor and preserve the perineum issue that they were concerned about. So she laid on her side to help slow down the descent of the baby. She pushed 3 times and her baby slid out. She said it was definitely the fetal ejection response. And that's a response where essentially the body skips the second stage, pushing altogether, and ejects the baby, you know, rapidly. It's very intense when this happens. She said she felt elated and really peaceful despite the intensity of it. The labor, she had only made it to the hospital 30 minutes earlier. She got 2 hours together breastfeeding with her newborn before moving to her room. She was examined and had no tearing at all, which was a complete shock to everyone involved. Her entire labor was 4.5 hours compared to 24 hours with her first. And her first labor had 4.5 hours of pushing alone. So this second labor in total was as long as she was pushing for her first. She had with her first a 4th degree tear and vacuum extraction. So having this labor now, being able to trust her body and see that her body could do it. And it only takes 4.5 hours, no assisted delivery, no tearing whatsoever. And she also had no pain medicine, not even Tylenol during their whole stay. She realized what she was capable of, and she got the beautiful birth that she was hoping for. She said it brought so much closure and healing to her heart to be able to trust her body and know that it could do it, and then see it work the way she'd always believed it could.